So, good day, everyone. We're here for another episode of the DVD show. So, for today, we have the starting power forward of the Ateneo Blue Eagles in the recently concluded season 84. And yeah, now he's still a free agent, or he still talks when where he will play next. But yeah, maybe he could talk about it here on the DVD show. So, I'll now welcome here to the podcast, Raffy Verano. Thank you for joining me here on my podcast.
Hey Dale, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So to start things off, I know that you're not here in the Philippines, so maybe you could share to the audience on where you are now, and maybe you went there for a vacation and to go back to your family after the season.
Yeah, so right now I'm in the States in California and LA. Came back around a couple weeks ago for a little vacation and see my family and my other old coaches and trainers. So I've been training out here a little bit here and there, but mainly just to get a little breather from everything that happened, especially since our past season. So
Yeah. So how long are you gonna stay, or how long have you been there, and how long do you still plan to stay there before going back here to test again where you will play eventually?
well, I've been out here for like about 2 weeks and a half now, and then I get back the first week of August. So about a month I've been out. I'll be out here, and then I'll be back there in the Philippines.
Yeah, so before we started recording, you mentioned already like that you're still in talks and you still haven't signed with any specific team in the world on where you will play. So maybe you could elaborate on it for the audience and some of the teams, or maybe some of the countries that you're in talks with, or where you're considering to play, as you still haven't agreed as of this recording.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm kind of just out here after the season. I'm in talks with my agent about possibly playing in Taiwan. So hopefully that works out. We're just waiting for them to reach out and have a meeting or a concrete offer. But
Yeah.
I heard they just recently finished their season, so I don't think they'll be really out there on the radar looking for people yet. So hopefully that'll work out. And then I mentioned when I get back to the Philippines, I'll be doing a little 3x3 leg with Coach Eric Altamirano for I think a month or two. Just get games in and experience and stay in shape. So I think that'll be good for myself. Um, and that's about it as of right now. Yeah.
Yeah, how about you mentioned the 3x3, and I read before this interview that you played with guys like Jay Washington for this league. How was that like? I mean, it's a different ball game from the 5 versus 5. So how was that adjustment like, and what prompted you to try something different from your comfort zone?
Oh yeah, man, that was super different from 5v5. 3x3 is a little more fast paced, and I would say a little more physical. You can say because I mean
Mhm.
it's super fast. The first practice I joined, with the team with like Jay Wash, Travis Jackson, those guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was I was huffing and puffing. I just finished season too, so I
yeah,
thought I
yeah.
was gonna be like super in shape and not huffing and puffing and get too tired too quick. But yeah, 3x3 is a fun and cool experience. I really liked it when I went out there in Thailand and played with them. Unfortunately, I got injured there, but
Oh,
the couple games I played, it was fun. It was a great experience to have under my belt, get the games in. 3x3 is a fun little experience. It's fast paced. The ball's a little smaller, but it's okay. I mean, everything else is fine. I mean, the experience. I met a lot of great people out there in Thailand. I got the chance to play against one of Japan's like most known 3x3 guy, and we went head to head,
mhm.
which was a cool experience. So overall, it was fun.
Yeah. Do you think that your game fits the 3x3? I mean, even if you could say you're an undersized 4 compared to the other ones, but then you're versatile. You could like switch on the guards. You could play the bigs. You could. I know that you could play with them even if they're like what 6'7" or those high, even
Yeah.
if their height is that high. You could like push them on the post, and you could switch on guys that are pretty quick and are shooters. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Coach Eric also was the one that got me the little gig there in 3x3 Thailand, and he
Wow.
said the same thing. And it was
Oh,
cool.
okay.
I thought he was right. 3x3 was very, you have to kind of guard whoever's out there and anyone, even if they're like what 6'8", 6'7", or
Yeah.
6 foot, or a little smaller, 5'11". So yeah, I think it was a good experience, to experience it more, because during season last year I didn't really get to like guard guards, and me playing the four as a 6'3", 6'2" and a half guy guarding these 6'8", 6'7" guys, 6'6", and then and then switching to a guard, which was cool. Because back in the States, I was playing a 1 to 3, so it was a
Yeah,
hard
I read.
adjustment for me, super hard adjustment for me my second year coming into Ateneo to switch to the four man. So it was a cool experience, but nonetheless fun.
Yeah. Oh, when you came into Ateneo, you were already second year. That's why you only played 4 seasons.
No, so I came Ateneo 2016, and then
Yeah.
my first year I was kind of jumping around from the 3 to the 4 spot. But then after my first year, they the team and I talked, and they were saying we needed me to play the four.
Okay.
So ever since then, I've been playing the four. I mean, it was hard adjustment, but it is what it is. It was fun. I wasn't complaining, whatever it takes to win and get a championship, help the
Yeah,
team
of
out.
course. Yeah. The playing years, were you able to use all of it? Because like you didn't play in season 82, right? So that didn't count. Or did that count? That's why 84 was your last one.
Yeah, so I had two more playing years coming
Oh,
into
two more.
last season to 85. So technically, I had one more year, but
Hmm.
I talked to my parents, my family, coaches, and I think it was time for me to leave the program and try and go pro and spread my wings somewhere else. Because honestly, in the pro scene, I won't be playing the four man, like a big
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, like
So
Sean
I would,
now, Sean Ildefonso. He's not
yeah,
playing the four in
exactly.
Rain or Shine.
Exactly. So, I wanted to, get back and gain my confidence back at playing, the three, or, even the stretch four if I needed to.
Yeah,
So,
small ball, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For sure. That's why, yeah, they're gonna miss your spot on the team. But I know that they have other recruits,
Yep.
and I believe they could fill on it. But then, did you finish your masters also with Ateneo? Like I heard that you were taking it. That's why you were able to play in season 84.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to finish masters after
Mm.
the final season. Masters was a little hard for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was business. Yeah. Business. Masters of business. Something like that. It
Yeah.
was pretty hard. I tried to keep up. But it was something that I thought that I should have just relaxed on and chilled on. So yeah,
Okay, I agree. I mean, I'm not there yet, so I wouldn't relate. But yeah, I feel if college is hard, then masters is
yeah,
like times 10 harder. So
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, moving on to your upbringing and childhood. Like people know that you didn't grow up here in the Philippines and you grew up there in the States. So maybe you could share that I read that you grew up in Burbank, California, and
hmm
you played like college ball in San Gabriel Academy, and you were, I think, based from what I read, you were more of like a scorer there in the States, and you guys won a couple of championships. So yeah, you could share your experience if basketball was your love from the beginning, and how your journey was when you were still like a child and all the way to your teenage years.
yeah. So I actually been playing ball since around the third grade. One of my closest friends introduced me to this all Asian league team actually.
Mm.
So ever since then, I kind of took ball just for fun. I didn't take it seriously until I reached around maybe middle school, like
Mm-hmm.
seventh or eighth grade out here in the States. And then high school, I for 3 years I attended Beljeff. It was like a little small Catholic private school. And ever since then, middle school, entering high school, I kind of fell in love with the game, and I can actually do something with it. It can take me to somewhere, maybe college out in the States, or
Mm-hmm.
never did I ever think I was going to be able to play in the Philippines, like go back to
Oh,
my
okay.
roots with my
Yeah.
family. So it was cool. I think second year high school was when Ateneo, I think, reached out to me. I think Coach Bo was still over there.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah. It's
yeah, and they
pretty
still
long
had
ago.
those 7 recruits. I think like
Mm.
CJ Perez,
Yeah,
Arvin
Arvin.
Tolenti, yeah,
Yeah,
Arvin, all those guys, like all those super great talented guys, John
yeah,
Apasible, all those guys.
yeah, yeah.
So I went to Vegas with them, my second year in high school, like, over at Impact.
Oh, you were still young. Yeah,
Yeah, so I met all those guys. It was a cool experience. Met Coach Bo, and then after that, I didn't really, I didn't really talk to them because I was in season for high school, and then it was crazy because entering my junior to senior year, um, announced that Coach Bo wasn't going to be at Ateneo anymore, and it
yeah.
was Coach Tab, someone from that's been coaching international since who knows when, since
Yeah,
forever.
forever. Yeah, I
Yeah,
interviewed him like 30 plus years. He said.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was a cool little thing. I was surprised also because the person that recruited me was actually one of my closest friends' dad. We played travel ball out
Okay.
here together in high school. So it was a cool little story. And then junior to senior year, I met Coach Tab a couple times. Junior one
Mm-hmm.
time, and then senior year, he came out to watch one of my games. And it's funny. I'm not sure if you saw the video of our Thanksgiving mass about him talking about him recruiting me, but he was
Okay.
saying that we didn't need another 6'2", 6'3" fat dude on the team. And so it was a little. I never heard about that part until I graduated and I left during that
Yeah.
Thanksgiving mass. So it was a little funny. But I sat down with him. We had dinner after one of my games with him and Boss Q, Epoch, and Father
Yeah.
Nemi. And I think it just clicked. I mean, I told him I think I remember telling him after the dinner, I was like, I'm in, like, I want to play for you. He was so persuasive. I mean, he's a great coach, a great guy off the court and on the court. And he was just, everything he said just hit the buttons, really persuaded me to go to Ateneo. And ever since then, it was just history. I was telling my parents, I think a couple weeks ago, that I never thought, like I said, I would never have thought that I would be able to go back home into Manila and play for one of the top schools there, not just basketball but academic wise also.
Yeah.
So I thought that was my best option if I really wanted to take basketball seriously. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, out here in the States, it's kind of hard for like a 6'3" Filipino dude to make it. Not in just college, because I see there's a lot. There was a couple guys that went to, like, I think UC Berkeley. Forgot his name, that played ball, but was also Filipino. But really, I think Ateneo and Philippines is probably the best option. I wouldn't have taken it away. I wouldn't have changed anything in the
Yeah.
past 5, 6 years I've been out there. So it's been a great
Yeah.
experience, man. It's cool. I love Ateneo. It's always forever gonna be my home.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned that Coach Tab was very persuasive, and I'm pretty sure that he's very big on roles and you fulfilling it. So from there on,
Mm-hmm.
he already like kind of gave you a gist of what he expects from you. So how,
Yeah,
like you personally, how did you adjust? Like you hearing it from him and what he wants from you, but you being like more of a scorer. Like I saw you'd average like 16 points per game in the States, and then here
yeah,
you're more of like the glue guy, and you
yeah.
you you were flourishing in the role and you adjusted well, but of course there was a journey and a progress through it. So how was that for you?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, out in the States, I was kind of like, that one of those guys on my team that would be scoring a lot.
Yeah,
So it was a hard adjustment. I mean, my first year, my rookie season, I think it was season 79.
yeah.
I played pretty well. I think
Mm-hmm.
I was playing how I played out here, so I kind of had that, that scoring mentality and all of that. So when I went out to the Philippines my second year and I got back, like I said, we sat down and they needed me to play the four.
Mm-hmm.
So that second year was kind of like a learning bump or a speed bump for me because
Yeah.
I've played big man before, but when I was super little, when I was kind of taller than everyone else,
Yeah.
but then I didn't get that growth spurt that everyone else got. That was like maybe 6'6", or six
Yeah.
seven. So excuse me. So the learning curve was hard, but I came in there with a mentality that I needed to help my team and my coaches and myself. You know, I got to do whatever I got to do to win for them, whatever it is, like you said, being the glue guy, being that guy that doesn't score as much, but helps the team
Mhm.
in other ways, like the dirty work, taking charges, rebounding,
Yeah.
defense, steals, all that. So my second year, I didn't really perform as well as I thought I would. I wanted to, especially
Mhm.
transitioning from playing a guard to a big man.
Yeah.
So that year, I would say was still a great year for me. I loved it. I think that was our first championship when we beat, I think,
Yeah.
LaSalle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that, I kind of had the mentality like, like this is what I'm gonna have to be doing for the rest of my college, even though it's not my natural position. So
Mhm.
I took it not with a grain of salt, but I took it with kind of open arms, because I wanted to win for the team and I wanted to keep succeeding in a role that I'm pretty good at. Because I've always kind of been that guy also growing up out here in the States. So I
Mhm.
do a little like I've been taking charges ever since I was little, man. I even wore like knee pads before, like volleyball
Oh,
knee pads,
wow.
because I would
Yeah.
always be on the floor,
Yeah.
dive in, getting my knees and my legs hurt, all that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't nothing too unfamiliar for me. But like as you said, growing up in high school, I was kind of the man or the go-to man on my
Yeah.
high school team. So it was very difficult. It was very,
Mhm.
very difficult. But I thought I adjusted pretty well to
Yeah.
the whole thing because we also had top scorers also like 30, Nieto twins, all those
Yeah.
guys. So we still had all those guys here in our team. So it was fine. It was hard. You know, I didn't like I said I didn't take it with a grain of salt, but it was
Yeah.
what I needed to do to help the team. So worked out.
Yeah, for sure. You won a lot of championships. Season 80, 81. You won a back to back, and I mean even in
Yeah,
82, even if you weren't there, I mean you knew all the guys already, and yeah, that's
yeah.
still two championships in the UAP level, so that's pretty successful. But how about with Coach Tab? I mean, everyone knows that he's a genius. That like whenever they watch him play, I don't know, everyone appreciates the plays you guys run, even with Gilas when he was the coach. And how was his style and his approach different from your coaches in the States? Because yeah, Coach Tab's more of like the European style. So I believe that the coaches you had there were more the American style of play. So how about in that approach or that aspect of the game? How was that adjustment for you?
I would say the adjustment was, I think, pretty smooth because in high school out here and playing in the States, it wasn't as detailed and systematic as what Coach Tab wanted us to do. And
Yeah.
I love that. Coming in there, I learned so much, especially, since he was teaching the European way of basketball or what he knew, his knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
his knowledge is insane about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Game sense, what to do, counters, stuff like that. In high school, help side was never really a thing for us. Help side or this like little fire defense you would get off, when someone would spin and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And like the pick and roll reads were
Oh
not
yeah.
as detailed as I remember high school being, but coming
Yeah, for
into
sure.
college with Coach Tab, everything was just so detailed. And like the film sessions were insane. Like I thought high school was kind of bad. Like I thought 30 minutes to an hour was bad. Like we would be in the film room for like 2 hours, maybe even three, and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciated that. You learn so much from Coach Tab, and it's just his natural aura he gives out. Like he's one of those guys that make you want to learn, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's great. And he's a great coach. His system is the system that we ran when we were there, and when I was there in Ateneo, were all great systems, and systems that didn't have that superstar type of thing. Like
Yeah, that's
we
what's great
had,
about that.
yeah, we had people, like anyone could have scored 15 to 18 to 20 points,
Mm-hmm. For
even
sure.
off the bench.
Yeah.
So it was one of those systems that were like, forget that superstar mentality. Anyone can shoot it, anyone can play. And we had those things. We had those weapons, on the bench and stuff like BJ's a great example. This last
Yeah.
season he played great. He
Yeah.
wasn't
Great shooter.
utilized as much in the past
Mm-hmm.
seasons, but now he started this last season and he played great shooter, lost a lot of weight. He's big now. So I think Coach Tab's system and the way he coaches is just phenomenal. I was
Mhm.
so honored, and it was a great experience to play under him for the past 4 to 5 years. You know,
Yeah, for sure. Like our interview here, it was one of my longest ones because he just kept talking. Like we didn't really care about the
yeah, and
time,
he
and then
talks a
yeah,
lot. Yeah,
yeah, he was sharing a
yeah,
lot of
man.
things and pretend like I was ready towards the last question, and then he still talked for like 10 minutes in that question. But yeah, that's the great thing about podcasts. Like I just kept learning. Like me, I didn't know some of the things he was saying anymore. I didn't
Yeah,
expect it, but
definitely.
then I learned it that day. So that's why I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, and I can imagine like you guys every day having him, and you
Oh
guys would
yeah.
appreciate the lessons that he would share. But I'd segue just a bit. How about with you adjusting with like the Filipino culture or the environment, or most especially like the weather and the traffic? How was that for you, especially you were in the States for your whole life?
Yeah, man. It was tough. The culture shock was there, definitely. In my first year, I came
Mhm.
out there. I wasn't so used to everything being so different compared to the
Mhm.
states, because the states is more. How do I explain it? I mean, we have a freeway, so there's no traffic usually.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Usually the traffic kind of happens like during rush hour out here, but like there in the
yeah.
Philippines, when I went out there, it's like rush
It's
hour was
every
like
time.
every hour. Yeah. So I was like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah,
To get to point A to point B would take you 45 to an hour, when usually with no traffic, it's like 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
yeah,
So, and the culture shock was insane. Coming in from the States to the Philippines was a huge, huge adjustment. The weather was always hot, very tropical. I was crazy. I was so used to wearing, pants, long sleeves, hoodies every time, but I couldn't even wear that out there.
yeah. Of
You know,
course,
I
yeah,
would I would only wear it nowadays if I'm going to somewhere cold like Esamora or Moa, or
yeah,
like the Colosseums.
yeah.
So that was a big adjustment. But luckily, I had my mom out here my first year for like
Oh,
a
okay.
couple months, so she helped me because it was my first time actually going to the Philippines ever that year,
Oh, that's even
2015.
harder.
Yeah, so it was tough, and the language barrier was tough, like super hard. Like not knowing a
Mm.
lick of Tagalog was insane. But now I get context clues and I can understand more, so it's not as bad. With that language barrier, what else was tough?
Traffic.
Traffic was tough.
Yeah,
And seeing how crazy the setting is and environment out there in the Philippines it is
it's
compared
different.
to the States. Super. So that
Mm.
was that was a huge shock to me as well. But other than that, I wouldn't say it was like one of those transitions that it took like years or like a year or two to
Yeah,
for me to adjust. It only took me like about maybe one semester or like half or the season for me to get used to it. But other than that, it was a cool experience to go through. A little
yeah,
tough at first, but it was fine. Got used to it.
yeah. But you're full Filipino, right? Even if you didn't go here when you were younger.
Yes, both of my parents were born and raised in the Philippines. My mom's actually from Ilocos, and then my dad was kind of around in Manila. So
Mm,
full
okay, okay, yeah.
Filipino,
Because
yeah,
I'm pretty sure people mistakenly think that you're Philam because you grew up in the States for the majority of the early part of your life.
yeah,
So yeah, that's what maybe
yeah,
did think. But yeah, yeah. Going back to the basketball talk, like I enjoyed it that you mentioned a lot about Coach Tab, and yeah, you before you were playing behind Vince Tolentino. So how was it playing behind him, and then how did it also maybe prepare you? Like, how did he help you and the other big man also help you grasp that role of playing the four? And you were a key cog of the team when you won the championships in 80 and 81. Even if you were, you could say, like, yeah, backup in 79. Like, the role, it was like smooth sailing for you and you didn't have trouble adjusting in the court.
yeah. Like you said, I didn't really have trouble adjusting to being that second guy or the second man off the bench. I mean, it was a different experience for sure because like I said before, I really was a scorer out here in the States and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that. But my mentality was just not really go with the flow, but do whatever it takes to help the team. Like I had that
Mm-hmm.
mentality. As long as we're playing fine, we're having fun, and we're winning, and we're all doing this and that, we're all contributing. Then I was fine with it. I have that
Mm-hmm.
mentality that's just out there. I'm not one of those selfish guys that be like, I have to start. Like if you don't start me, I'm not gonna play, or
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna shoot up this season, stuff like that. It was just one of those things that we all experienced together as a team, and I think what got us closer. And Vince helped me a lot also.
Mhm.
And season 79 G Boy Babylonia helped me a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
Our five man before. Those guys are great. Having them as vets were smooth sailing. They helped me a lot in the role of trying to be a big man. Vince especially, because that second year was the transitional year I had from playing a guard to a big man in the
Mhm.
college level. So shout out to Vince for that. He helped me a lot. And then 81, 81 was an experience too, because it was kind of like my first full season of me starting
Yeah,
kind of the
starter.
whole
Yeah.
season.
Mhm.
So I was a bit nervous at the start, but it kind of just smoothed down. It was just the same thing, but I
Mhm.
was just starting, so I had to really step up. But it was a great transition, smooth one, because I had people, my teammates help me out. So everyone was patient with me because I didn't my second year I didn't really know how to play big man out there, especially
Yeah.
like you said, if I'm guarding 6'6" or 6'8" dudes. Like this past season, Carl Tamayo 6'8", so
Yeah.
it was a little tough. But it
Baltazar.
was
Yeah.
Baltazar 6'7", 6'6", so
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, man. But it was fun. I had a
Mhm.
had a good time playing against those great talented guys. So,
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to touch on it since you mentioned a lot about being an undersized four. And what's your thoughts on like the game now? Like even all over the world, with the four man or even the five man now can shoot outside shots. And I saw that you had a great percentage shooting before in the States, and you brought it here. That whenever they kick it out to you in the corners, you or if you do a pick and pop on top of the key, you could convert those threes. And but then before, I'm pretty sure that in the 90s or like the early 2000s, there are guys like Dennis Rodman who wouldn't like even attempt
yeah.
a mid-range shot or a three-point shot. So do you think that maybe you were born in the right era, that it helped you, that you were able to play the four?
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, it's crazy because I met with some of my old high school coaches. I think just a
Mm-hmm.
couple of days ago, and we were talking about this exact same thing. Now out here in the states, no one wants to play the four or the five. They all want to play, outside and shoot the ball and dribble the ball.
Yeah.
Even if like some guys are like 6'8", 6'9", and
Yeah.
super lengthy, and they would want to play outside. But I would
Mm-hmm.
I would think I was in the right generation playing, or it helped me actually adjust to the 4 or 5. Because like you said, shooting, pick and popping was also a deadly weapon in the game now.
Yeah,
Since
for
four
sure.
men can shoot. Like I mean, I'm pretty sure Carl has been shooting the ball well lately. Also for even when
Mm-hmm.
he was playing in Gilas, Will before when we were playing was shooting the ball great. So
Mm-hmm.
having that in your team's arsenal, a popping big that can shoot. Even Isaac Go, he was shooting threes
Yeah.
crazy during season 80 and 81. So the clutch three and 80, or yeah, and 80, the clutch
Mm-hmm.
three hit against
Yeah.
Kib was off that pop was crazy. Even Andre's shooting well this past season. He would
Oh
knock
yeah,
down a
and
couple.
before he wouldn't shoot, but then
Yeah,
now
but
he's a threat.
so like it's a threat now. So like if
Yeah.
if your big men can shoot, now it's kind of like you can't sag off
Mm-hmm.
them at all, even if they pop. So you really have to get on them, make them put it on the ground or pass it. So I think it's a great weapon to have on the team, and a great skill to develop if the big guys are either undersized or if they can just shoot the ball in general. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great, and I love it now. It's not only in the NBA. I mean, people would emulate them because they're the number one league in the world, but
Yeah.
everywhere now, UAB, NCAA, here in the
Yeah.
local leagues, everyone needs to have at least a reliable one. You don't need to shoot like attempt five a game, but if
Yeah.
they leave you
Exactly.
once in a while, you gotta convert it and
Yeah.
make the defense pay when they leave you open. So yeah, that's
Exactly. Yeah.
great that you have that. But then, how about this? I wanted to ask you, like, I'm pretty sure you watch your former teammates in the PBA, like Tyler, Mike, and
Hmm.
Gia. Now they're more of like scorers, and then in the
Yeah.
Ateneo, they were like more of, I don't know if you could say like more of team players, or they would like follow the system, and you can't say that it was wrong because you guys were winning championships and you guys did the right thing there. And then parang Coach Tab was able to prepare them well for the pros. So how would you
Hmm.
say he does that? Like how does he balance that? That in the Ateneo, like you guys have certain times wherein you could go attack the rim and go find your own bucket, like how SJ did in Game 3 against UP. But there are times also wherein it'd be in single digits. But and did it all? Does that also help for the pros or the other leagues they'll join after leaving Ateneo?
Yeah, I mean, it helps a lot. Just like you said, those guys are now scoring. I mean, I think Ty was averaging about like 12 or 13 points and
Yeah,
started for Phoenix, so that was great.
yeah.
Mamu, I mean, it's all nothing too surprising to all of us that's been in the program, as a teammate before. Excuse me. But yeah, Coach Tab, he harps saying we're here because I'm trying to get you guys to go pro also. So,
Mm-hmm.
just know that even though this is, very systematic and team based, that we're developing all you guys, all the players in Ateneo to make it to the next level. To be what, Mamu's doing, what Tyler's doing, Sean, Mike, Matt, all those guys. Like that's what he really wants for us deep down. Even though he wants us to do system and win this and win that. But really, at the end of the day, he always mentions it's not always winning the championship. That just comes with it. That just comes with the
Mm-hmm.
hard work that we put in and that teamwork we put in. He really wants us to strive and go for that next level in the pro. So that's his mentality every time. He mentions that a lot actually during our practices and stuff. So I think that's what he tells us, and it's nothing surprising that these guys, my former teammates or these former Ateneo players that were under Coach Tab, doing all this. You know, and like you said, Mike shocked everyone because everyone was doubting Mike, right?
Yeah,
So I was like, why are these guys doubting Mike? Mike can play. And then when he
yeah,
had that Gilas stint, that stunt where he played so well, and then he came in the rain or shine, and his first game he dropped like 22 or something like that.
yeah. Best player of the game.
Yeah, so I was like, it's nothing that anyone that, or at least we should know that should be, surprised. So
Mm-hmm.
it was great, happy for all those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you also do well wherever you sign. I mean, you haven't closed your doors yet on like the PBA. You might just join there in the future, or
Mm,
if you're gonna play in Taiwan or even in 3x3. I mean, you could still do well there, like how Almond Vosotros did well for
yeah,
TNT in the PBA 3x. I mean, representing the
yeah.
TNT from the PBA 3x3. So yeah, anywhere you play, I'm pretty sure you could still find your niche and also flourish. But moving on to that season 80 and 81 when you guys were close to unstoppable in that time. And what do you think was the reason and why you overcame that hump? I mean, you played LaSalle with Ben and Bala in season 79, and in 80, yeah, they didn't have Jeron, but then they had Richie who became better, Aljun became better, and they were still pretty formidable. But in season 80, you were able to beat them. And then in 81, I mean, UP was still, they had like Bright, who was the MVP, and um, all these guys. So, what do you think was the key factor or the switch that made you turn around and win this to a back to back and then yeah, three peat eventually?
I think just our mentality. I think after that bitter loss in season 79, I mean, no one expected us to, I think, go to the finals that year. So we were super underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
Having a new coach, having kind of lose those seven guys that were supposed to play on season 79. And I think our team mentality changed that we needed to, come better or become better as a team and individually and contribute for the team. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that spark plug after that loss kind of got us going. You know, um, trust the system. I mean, everyone says believe in the system, and then we had that mentality, next man up. So we
Yeah.
had to really, stray away from that individual type of basketball or a superstar mentality. And LaSalle season 80 and UP 81 were tough teams. I mean, super
Mm-hmm.
tough teams, right? I mean, we had all the pieces. It could have went either way. We had all the pieces could to win. They had all the pieces to win,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just one of those games or one of those series that who wanted it more, who believed in the system more. I think we fell into that hole and that spot perfectly. Everyone was in it. Everyone was 110% in the system, in each other, helping the team. So I think that was one of the reasons why. who were able to succeed so much. And then especially '83, it was the same thing. Same thing. They had all the tools still. '83 was great. They all played well. I mean, UST was a great team. They had CJ and then Abando and then
No,
Chabio,
no.
which was a yeah, no Noy, which was a
Yeah.
crazy team. And I
Yeah.
look back at it and I'm like, dang, if they were still in here, they would probably have been in the finals too this past season if they were all
Yeah,
still
yeah.
together.
Can't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a crazy team and a crazy series also. And no one expected UST to go to the finals that year, or even in the
Yeah. They
in the
beat
final
UP
four. Yeah,
twice, and UP was more talented.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. But I think it's really, like mentioned earlier, Coach Tab being such a great coach, letting us play within the system and contribute how we can contribute.
Yeah. How about Coach Tab? Does he have that secret of have you guys continuing that hunger? Because you know what, I'm pretty sure you've been in teams wherein if you guys are winning, you tend to like say, we could beat them easily. I mean, we're like 10-0 now. It's easy to get to 11-0. How did he actually instill it, and it's embedded in you guys to continue playing 100%? Like especially like for instance that UST game when you guys were up by like 50, you guys were still playing hard.
Yeah, so he tells the guys and a couple of other guys that were been a part of the system or Ateneo before. It's just we've been trying to get that killer instinct. So like no matter what happens, what our score is, we can't be complacent. I'm pretty sure a lot of people say that, and
Yeah,
you've heard
yeah.
it a lot. But he really lived by it. I mean, we would have practices where we would be so sluggish and not look how we were supposed to look during practices, and he would get pissed, and we would run bleachers, or we would run, or he would start yelling at us, and we would have meetings after every practice, like the team, like the players, and talk about it. But we tried to last season. We tried to really get that killer instinct going. Like no matter what our record is, even if we had that winning streak, if we lose it mid season to like anyone, like it wouldn't really stop us from trying to get that ultimate goal. It was a championship, or develop to get to that next level. So it was one of those mentalities that we all had to buy into, and put in our mental and our physical attributes into that to try and win. No matter what happens. Like when we lost that last game of round two against UP, we were like, we all thought, or most of us, or okay, not most of us, but all of us were like, dang, like we really lost that. Like, it was
Yeah.
like we were really harping on it. And it's okay to dwell on it for a bit, but like you have to move on right away. Like the only thing
Mhm.
that loss stopped us from was going straight to the finals.
Mhm.
So it wasn't even that bad. We were still the number one seeded. We were still this and that. And it's just that mentality where you just have to keep moving. Like you can't dwell on it for too long. Like you have to get up. Like you got to pick yourself up or pick people up to move on. You got to keep moving
Mhm.
forward and keep fighting to. And like you mentioned that game against UST, like it was, you just keep playing hard. Like he always, Coach Tab always mentions, like you can't stop ever playing. Like no matter what
Mhm.
the score is or what your stat line is or whatever it is, like you have to keep playing your 110% or
Mhm.
100%. So we all bit into that, and it was a cool little thing that we had going on.
Yeah, definitely. You guys were dominating the league during that time, and I don't know. There were a lot of shows or podcasts for sure. You hear that when is Ateneo gonna lose? Like, they try to guess on like when
Yeah.
you guys would lose because you guys didn't. I mean, the pandemic helped, but that was a lot of years wherein you guys didn't lose. But then I wanted to ask also, like, this is one question I'm pretty sure others would want to ask. Like in the finals, this Coach Tab like give 30 the keys and just like tell him to do whatever he wants, because in the finals like he could score like 30 plus, but then in the elimination
Yeah.
round he'd never even score, I think, over 20, but then in the finals he could score close to 40, like that game 2 clincher against UP didn't have
Yeah.
stand a chance when 30 was banking in those threes and making all those acrobatic layups. So what's his style, or is it like all just in the flow of the game?
Yeah, dude, it was just in the flow of the game. I mean, I
Oh,
think
okay.
when thirds enters the finals, it's kind of a different type of different type of player. I mean, it was crazy when he scored. I think it was like 32, right? 33 in the
Yeah,
game two.
game two against UP when he was
Yeah,
shooting everything, making everything.
yeah. I mean, coach never gave him like the super green light, like if you get the ball, shoot it, or get the
Yeah,
ball, do this and do that. It was all within our system. He was feeling it. He was hot, so we all had that mentality. If he's hot, give it to him and let
hmm
him, go to work or shoot. And we were there to, clean it up and everything. But man, he was a different type of player, different type of animal during the finals. Man, I think
yeah,
he just went crazy. I mean, good for him. It was crazy, man. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I, yeah, and one thing I wanted to touch on was I think before season 81, wherein I watched you guys in the Jones Cup, wherein you'd go against top tier talent in the world, and I'm not sure how many wins you guys got, but those were a lot of wins. And there was that one Matt Nieto game winner that I won't forget. And honestly, that was the only time I cheered for Ateneo because
Yeah.
coming from LaSalle, like yeah, it's kind of tough to cheer for Ateneo, but if they're representing the flag and country, of course you're gonna cheer for them. And you guys played pretty well. People didn't expect you guys to sneak out a lot of these wins. So how do you think it's important to have that international exposure as a collegiate team, and you having that opportunity to play against these pros even when you were, I don't know, like third year college, fourth year college, and you were playing well against them.
Yeah, it was a cool experience, especially, as a collegiate team, like you said, to represent the country and play against these top tier teams and having a great fighting chance against them. Like you said, we got a couple wins or like a good amount of
Mhm.
wins, and especially that win against the home team, which is I think Chinese Taipei, right? So it was crazy. We look at it also as a team. When we're underdogs, like we for sure. I mean, everyone looks at it that way. Like if you're an underdog, you have a fighting chance. Like you have to fight. You have to fight. But I think with us is like we had such a great experience or a great opportunity to play international and play against these teams. So of course we're gonna give it our all, 100% to get that experience, that international experience, and play against these top tier teams and players, especially like Korea. I think we also play against Japan, all those
Mhm.
great Asian teams. And I think we also before Jones Cup we also played in another international tournament. It was in South Korea. We played against I think Russia also over there, and
Wow.
they
Okay.
were
Yeah.
they were all like 6'6" and above.
Physical guys.
No one, yeah, physical. No one was ever, I think, shorter than 6 foot on that team. I think the
Wow.
shortest guy was probably like my height, and he was their point guard. So
And
it's a great learning experience. Playing those guys and getting to watch film on those games,
Mhm.
especially against playing like those teams in Europe like Russia or the greater Asian teams like Japan or all those teams, Chinese Taipei and South Korea, which was a great experience. I mean, we played against Ratliff always, and he was always back then like crazy, killing it. And Korea was always good, so great experience overall. What else can I say? It was just, and to be out there to meet all those guys and be in the same hotel as them, and and being in Chinese Taipei or South Korea, you're traveling too, and it's like wow, you're really like the team's really doing this,
Mhm.
as a collegiate team. So it was nice. It was fun. Great experience.
Yeah. But then I wanted to also ask, like, in relation to it, and you said it's a been great experience. What's your thoughts or what's your opinion on these players like you were considering to play in you're considering to play in Taiwan. There were also reports before that you were considering to play in Korea, and there some of your teammates like SJ and William are in Korea, and then you have 30 and Kiefer, they're in Japan. Like, what are your thoughts on these players pursuing something different? I mean, before, like in the 2000, early 2010s, everyone would just go PBA after collegiate ball. And there's only a few that would try something different, like Ray Parks, Kobe Paras, and Kiefer. Like they tried going to the US, but most go to the PBA. Now there's other routes that you could go to. So, what's your thoughts on that and expanding and trying out these other ventures?
I think it's great. I mentioned in an article before, seeing my ex teammates. I think I mentioned 30 mature
Mm-hmm.
as a player and as a person. playing overseas in Japan or playing everywhere, I think it would be a great learning curve, a great experience to anyone that's going to play out there. Like SJ playing in Korea is going to be, or Will also is going to be amazing for them because Korea is very, very like systematic and disciplined. So that's going to be such a great thing to absorb and to learn from. So like
Mm-hmm.
whether anyone goes to overseas, I think it's a great opportunity for everyone because you learn so much from another league, another country, say like Japan, Korea, or Taiwan. So that's and then the PBA is going to be there, and you come
Yeah.
back to the PBA and you can bring that to the PBA and to help PBA teams like what Javi's doing. Played in Japan, played wasn't very. I mean, I think he played well, and he got some minutes, but I think towards the end he didn't as much. But
Yeah. The coach
he
didn't
came
like.
back, yeah, and he came back to the PBA, and he's doing all that now. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's their go-to guy, and he's scoring the ball well, and it's just cool. Like don't, I'm not mad at them trying to experience more or learn more about the game. So it's good for them. Great opportunity for everyone, and a great like learning curve, like I said, to absorb everything.
Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned about learning curve, and for sure on season 82, that's what happened with you because you weren't able to suit up for the Blue Eagles that year because of academic reasons. And yeah, of course, people have their own speculations or their own rumors or chismes as the
Yeah,
Filipinos call it. So
yeah.
maybe you could explain to the others like what's Ateneo's rule in terms of the academic requirements and why you weren't able to play like straight from you so that people don't need to come up with other or their own reports or their own thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I think Ateneo had a different curriculum when it came to academics than UAP because I know UAP had a different or like
Yeah,
a
they do.
you just have to maintain like a I think a 1.9 or something or a two, I
Yeah,
think
UAP is
for UAP.
different compared to Ateneo. Yeah.
So Ateneo we always had so our first year we had to keep a 1.8 or higher, and the second year
Mm-hmm.
1.9, and then so on and so on. Two, I think it stops at two or 2 point something. So
Mm-hmm.
that year I sat out was actually very unfortunate. Um, I had one of my classes that I was banking on to get a good grade in, turning everything in because it was one of those things where I was either going to make it or not because of this one class. So this one class, I forgot what class it was, but I had done everything. I had turned everything in, and I took my final exam. I did well on that, and then it's just I'm not going to be pointing fingers or anything or say anything crazy, but I think I just didn't get the letter grade I really deserved in that class. So I think
Oh,
that
okay.
that's what kind of made make or break. That was the turning point basically. Sorry, of me playing that season or not. So it happens. It was also my fault, especially because I wasn't in my books as serious as I should have been. Like
Oh, okay.
that should have never been a problem. So it's mainly my fault, but it happens. It was a learning curve for me. Like I said, for many things. I think I came a lot hungrier and a lot better this last season because I had to prove myself again. Not only my teammates but everyone out there that was watching games. So it was an experience, but sadly I missed out on the three-peat. Yeah, on 82.
You guys don't have like grade consultation in Ateneo. I mean, in LaSalle, we have
We
like this grade consultation. Then you ask for the breakdown, and then they'll see if they computed it.
Yeah, we do, but yeah, it wasn't computed. Yeah, we have that. We can have like consultations with our teachers and stuff, and I was doing that as well. Talking about my grade and keeping on. Like I was on my teacher about it. Like what is this? Like what else can I do to up it, or what else can I do? Is there anything extra I can do, or is there stuff I can turn in that I missed? Maybe if I missed anything. So there was stuff like that. There was consultation and everything.
Yeah, so I'm curious since you were off for a season and I think you stopped playing like in the D League wherein you played a couple of games and you weren't able to finish it and yeah, you didn't
Yeah.
get a suit up in the UAAP. did you get like a trainer, or do you work on your game personally, like on your own? Like, what was your strategy? Of course, you had that mentality of wanting to suit up because it wasn't like the end of the world that you weren't able to play for
Yeah.
one season. So, what was your mindset, and what did you do for that whole year before coming back? Now in '84, just got delayed because of the whole COVID.
Yeah, so it was tough. It was tough being not being able to suit up for the Blue Eagles that year. But my first thing was, to get my books right. Get it in already, to study more. To be on that more since I have the time. But other than that, I was training by myself. I was in the weight room. I was, doing skills on my own, and I would have, sometimes like Coach Yuri help me out, give me skills, or train with like the Team B guys, just to get like a sweat in or stay in shape. Keep everything else tight. Handle, shot, everything. But yeah, it was depressing, man. It was one of those things where like, I'm there to play basketball and I'm not even playing that right now.
Yeah,
Especially for the Blue Eagles. So it was a tough year, and COVID didn't make that any easier. It would made it,
yeah, for
if
sure.
anything, a little harder. Like I was losing hope, like if we were ever gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I wasn't even sure if I was gonna be ready to leave Ateneo and go pro or do whatever if I didn't play that last year.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was super tough, and like I said, COVID was crazy. We weren't even able to go out to do anything to train. Like it was all at home. So that was like for that year, I think the first ECQ was crazy. Like I didn't even touch a ball until like towards the end of it, and I just had got a ball towards the end of ECQ, which was insane. And I didn't. It was like I think like 3 or 4 months, and all I've been doing
It's
was
pretty
like
bad.
just like
Yeah.
yeah, all I was doing was just like home body workouts, trying to keep my mental and stable because it was tough mentally also. Pretty sure a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people went through that, so no joke. But yeah, it was tough,
Mm-hmm.
man. It was super tough. Waiting on when season will start. Everyone was saying, "Oh, season's gonna start. Season start practice. Believe, believe, believe." But it was
Then another
never.
variant.
Yeah, and then it was never unsure, or everything was so unsure. So it was crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, and then finally, when you guys were able to play, it took a couple of games before the fans were allowed in the arena. But then, yeah, Ateneo was great. I mean, yeah, even if I'm from LaSalle, like as a basketball geek, like I'd watch Ateneo even if you guys were against, like, let's say UE or one of the teams that aren't in the Final Four. Because, yeah, the way you guys play, like, I'd always tell people I'm watching with, like, oh, do you see, like, their plays? Like, none of the other schools actually run that. Like,
Yeah,
like you guys are more advanced and it's more modernized, and I really want to learn. That's why I just watch it, even if it's you guys are up by, let's say, 30 or
yeah,
something. Like, yeah, so I learn also from it. But how proud of you were of your batch? I mean, you guys graduated, like Tyler, Gian, and a lot of these guys that are not going to be coming back for season 85. Like, the loss stings for sure, because it was a especially Kagulangan shot. Like, I don't know if it was destiny talaga for them. But
yeah.
then, all overall, like, I'm pretty sure you guys were still proud of how you guys played the whole year. I mean, having the pandemic, being in shape, and not losing until the last game of the second round. So overall, what was your personal feeling on the team?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it wasn't the way we wanted it to end, but overall, I think our season was great. We had a great run. And I think this year's team or this past year's team was really the heart and example of next man up and not having a real superstar on the team because all the other guys left like third, Mike, Pat, Adrian, and Vince and all those guys and Will. So this past year was we played great. We played an amazing season. I think we did all that we could have done. Like I said, it wasn't the way we wanted it to end. We wanted to end on a high note, but I still think it was a great performance overall from everyone. I mean, it's one of those things where we can grab the last guy on our bench and he can start and maybe even drop 15 or 20.
Yeah.
So it was a great season overall. I'm proud of. that team, proud of what we done. Came a long way because we were a fairly new team. A lot of new guys coming in,
Agree. Yeah.
and it was a lot of like Dave was coming in our first season, so that was we had to all adjust to that, and he had to adjust also because coming from NU being the superstar and the scorer, he
Yeah.
comes to us and has to play in the system. I mean, he was averaging I think like six or something assists every other game. Like he was
Yeah.
passing the
Yeah.
ball fairly well,
Yeah.
and he was a great guy to be with, to play with. Ange is always there. I played with him since what, like he's just Ange, so
Yeah.
I was one of those guys. And then SJ and all those other guys, they were great to have, great to great to play with them one last time and have that great season and that great run we had. So,
Yeah, I had Dave here before the season. Like I don't know what month that was, but you guys, that was like I think after Gilas when he was injured or he was still recovering. But
mm,
then you guys, there was no season yet, and yeah, he said it was tough. In NU, he has the green light to shoot at every
yeah,
possession, and then coming into Ateneo, it was different. But he still played a terrific year. He was one of the top
yeah.
players in the league. So yeah, and you guys played really well. But then I wanted to ask because like for me, like objectively speaking, I thought that you guys were gonna still win the championship, even if I'm from Luzon. Like, wag naman Ateneo, like
Yeah,
someone else. Yeah, but then I don't know. Like whenever my friends would ask, like from Ateneo, since they know I'm like familiar with basketball, they'd be like, "Who do you think is gonna win, like Ateneo or UP?" And then I'd be like, Ateneo, and then you guys lost game one, then I'd be like, wala yan, pinauna lang, or like they'll still win game two and three. They just made them win the first game. But
yeah.
then, for you, what do you think were the like primary reasons and why UP was really tough to beat? I mean, they were talented, and I think they finally found their chemistry in the latter part of the season that they were struggling with early. But for you personally, what did you see playing against them?
I mean, UP was a great team. I mean, there was nothing really else that I could say on it. They were, I think, the more talented team coming into the game because they had so many weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And especially that game three, no one expected CJ to play and drop 14 on us. So
On one
I was
leg.
on one leg, yeah. So that
Yeah.
was a little tough. But I think it was just I didn't. I think we just couldn't close the game. Like there
Mm-hmm.
were like that game one, I hit it two, and I thought that was we were gonna that was the dagger.
Yeah, you guys
And
were
game
up by a lot.
yeah, in game
Yeah.
three it was the same situation. We were up, I think maybe five or six. And then I think CJ hit a bank three from the logo, and then
Oh yeah.
Coquelin got an offensive rebound and just turned around and hit a three.
Yeah.
So I think we just had some, little breakdowns during the game. Like offensive rebounding also game one was crucial. Like Save got a lot of offensive rebounds on us towards the end of the game. It killed us and he converted off those. So I think it was just those little mental breakdowns or little like those little moments during the game that we just had. And after that, I can't say much because we had everything we could have won. We had all the weapons. We were coming in, after the eliminations, hungry since we lost that last game, and we played FEU and we just played our game. So I was confident enough that we would be able to, just play our game and not think about the loss or stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And especially UP being UP is such a great team and kind of like anyone can score off their team. I mean, Spencer played well for them also, especially that I think that second round he played super well against us and in the first game. So it was tough. I think it was just mentally we were kind of not all there, you know, towards the later end of the series.
Yeah.
Couldn't
So
close it out. Yeah.
yeah, that was tough in game one. I was kind of shocked actually because I don't know, for me, like Ateneo, I thought you guys were like calm and composed, and it's like, oh, and then Spencer hit that shot. I was like,
Yeah.
what? He made that out of nowhere, and then I didn't even know if that was the play, but it looked like it because I don't know. He said that that was his shot that he tried to that he missed the season before. That he still thought that this was his way to show that he could actually make a clutch three in a Final
Yeah.
Four finals game.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to ask because you were on Carl and Zave for majority of the series, and they're two very athletic guys who could do a plethora of things on the floor. So how tiring was that for you in the 3 game series going up against Carl and Zave?
I mean, it wasn't as tiring. It was cool. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was already so used to guarding, guys that were taller than me or a little bit bulkier than me. So it was
Mm-hmm.
nothing new for me. But it was a challenge for sure. Both very talented guys. I mean, Carl is one of those super rookies. So, and he was 6'8". So I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I think in game three we only held him to like 6 points, and then I think Save had zero. I think that game, and
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
they,
Zave
they
didn't do
still
well. Yeah.
they still won it, which was crazy. But it
Mm-hmm.
was a challenge for sure. Definitely took that to heart. Like I have to come out and guard these guys. They're top players. I mean, they both were their top scorers. I think Carl and Save. I think right for UP.
A
So it was a
lot.
great challenge to
Yeah.
accept. Yeah, I was open arms willing to take that challenge. And it was a good, I learned a lot from it, especially guarding dudes that were like 5 inches taller than me. So it was cool. It was fun. Fun.
Yeah. How about for some people, like maybe some Athenians would also say that you guys would match up better with LaSalle. And honestly, I thought we were actually gonna advance to the finals. UP just led like 40 seconds of the whole series, I think, and they still. I mean, that's the only win they needed. That's why you have the twice to beat advantage, and you only needed to win 1 game. So
Yeah.
what's your opinion on it that people would say that you'd match up better with LaSalle? I mean, in the elimination round, you blew LaSalle out in the first game, and the second game, yeah, it was sort of blowout, and then LaSalle tried to catch up in the fourth, but it was too little, too late. But what's your thoughts on that? Is it just really the breaks of the game and why you lost to UP, or yeah, do you think you might match up better with like Mike and Balti and Shawnee and all these guys?
I mean, for sure. I mean, I think we all kind of thought we were going to face LaSalle after that after that game. I mean, we were all watching it and we were like, okay, we were already trying to, mentally prepare for LaSalle. But it is what it is. UP won that game. And people were saying, if it was LaSalle, it would have been a better matchup for us. But
Yeah.
I don't really look at it that way. It was just whoever was in front of us is whoever we had to beat. It was just one of those things where it's another game, it's another game. Even if it was
Mm.
LaSalle, it could have been the same outcome. We could have lost game three, or we could have went 0-2, or it could have been 1-2. Because any team in the playoffs or in the finals is going to be a different team for sure, especially playing how
Mhm.
many times in the elimination rounds and learning from it and watching film from all the other games. So I think LaSalle would have been a nice matchup too. It would have been very nonchalant, coming back and being like, oh, dang, this is the team I first played against in the finals in 79 and then 80, we beat them. So it would have been a cool, nice feeling, if it was that, if it went that way and then we ended up winning it that way, I would have felt, very nonchalant, like I said. So
Yeah.
it would have been cool if it was LaSalle. But it
Hmm.
is what it is. It was UP, so we had to face UP. So
Yeah. Honestly, I was covering that game for the Lasallian, and that was like putting the conclusion already, like up 13, 4 minutes
yeah,
left. Oh, we're gonna win already. Then I scrap. You need to scrap it all out when
yeah,
they couldn't
man.
inbound the ball. So yeah, it was tough. One of the toughest article like as of this moment that I needed to write for the Lasallian. But yeah,
Yeah,
learning experience for sure. And even for you guys, you said you were mentally preparing already to
yeah.
play LaSalle and then
We were all like
switch.
LaSalle, man. Yeah, like LaSalle, like we're ready. Blah blah.
Yeah.
Blah. But then boom, Carl started making twos. I think they hit a three, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
okay,
I think
we gotta slow down.
Alarcon made the three or Abadiano, one of them.
Yeah, I was like, oh wait. Now
Yeah.
they're only down what 5 or 6,
Yeah.
so it was one of those things. But it was a great game to watch too. That whole series. Like
Hmm.
I didn't think LaSalle was gonna win that first game either, because it was
Same,
kind of
same. I
going
mean,
going
I'm
both
from
ways.
LaSalle, but yeah,
But yeah, it was a tough game for sure.
yeah,
LaSalle's a tough team too, man. I mean, they're
yeah. And
still looking
LaSalle
tough
didn't
with.
match up well with UP in the elimination round. That's why I was like, I don't think we're gonna win. I mean, I'm just here to support the team, but I don't know
Yeah,
if we're gonna win. And then Evan played the best game of the season. That's why.
yeah. I think he did
Yeah.
like 30. He was like 30 something. Was it 30?
26, I think,
26.
close to
There you
30.
go.
Yeah. Yeah, but how about with Ateneo? Like I mentioned that you they lost a lot of guys, including you. But then yeah, I don't know if Ange is able to play and ready for with his knee injury. And I think Dave's one of the major returning, and BJ Andrade said that he's gonna come back, and most of them are like the sila Fortsky, Padregao, and the other guys already, and more recruits. So, how would you say? I don't know if you know the other guys coming in. How would you say that this team would still be a formidable force, even if yeah they're not playing in the leagues now, so people might think they're hiding and they're not playing in the PBAD league and the Phil Oil and UCPBL.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, there's a lot of new recruits also coming in for the team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all of them, but I think I went to a couple practices before I came out here, and
Yeah,
they look fine. They're Dave is still there. Ange, hopefully Ange is better by the season.
yeah.
But I hear that he's getting better and better. Chi Daves is also one of those guys that I think will have a great season this
Mm.
upcoming season. Or Matthew Daves, sorry.
Yeah, Matthew Davis.
Yeah, Matthew Daves. I think they're still looking pretty solid, and I think it's just gonna be matter or the mere fact if they can buy into the system as quick as they can. Because a lot of new faces, like you said, new recruits. A couple Philans I think will come in also and play. Like Kai Balangai, I
Yeah,
think.
guy. That
Yeah,
guy.
the
I
six
saw
five.
his
Yeah,
highlights. He's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, he's good. He's one of those guys that'll contribute a lot to the team. As a super athletic dude, I think he's
Mm-hmm.
like 6'5",
Mm-hmm.
athletic, lanky. But yeah, I think it's a matter if they can buy into the system as quick as they can because they're on a time schedule. So like it's gonna be a little tough because it was our season ended in May, had about like a week, like two weeks or so off, and then they started training. So it's one of those things. Like if they can get into that as quick as our past teams can or did, then I think they'll be fine. Still good, still good.
Yeah, I believe they'll be at least in the final four. That's like the that's like the far the what do you call this? That's like I don't know what you call it. Like I think they'll still make it. They won't go any lower than the final four for
Yeah,
Ateneo.
I
But
get what you're
then
saying.
like with Coach Tab and Gilas before when he had these Ateneo guys, especially in the pandemic when there was no UAP. I mean, for me, because I know how you play, and one looming question for me was why weren't you in the Gilas team? Is it like also because of your citizenship? Because you grew up in the States, like you got your passport after you were 16, so you're not eligible for FIBA competitions? Or is it just by choice that you didn't get invited or you didn't accept the invitation? Maybe for me, I'm the only one curious, but maybe the others are curious about that too.
No, yeah, it's actually the FIBA rule, the passport. I
Oh,
mean, if I
okay.
was called up for Gilas, man, I would love that. I would love to represent, our
Mhm.
country and where I was, my origins are from. But yeah, it's that FIBA rule. I didn't get my passport until I was like maybe 18 or 17, so I didn't even know that was a rule. I thought it was gonna be one of those things where if I was called up, no matter what, I could be able to, represent and play for Gilas. But yeah, that rule lingers still and hinders me from playing for Gilas. But if they ever get rid of that rule and I get called up, I'm all for it. You know.
I'm just saying you have a chance. I mean, Chris Newsom got cleared. Do you know about that?
Yeah,
That he got
yeah.
cleared, yeah,
I heard
recently. And
Jordan
Bruce
Clarkson
Bell.
also, right?
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully I just started because that time when Marshall Lassiter and Chris Lutz played that 2011, I think FIBA Asia Championships, Qatar tried to play all these guys that weren't even from Qatar, and they
Yeah,
inserted this rule. Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of their fault to be honest. Because before it was, basta you have Filipino blood or the blood that you're gonna play for that allow you. So yeah,
yeah.
hopefully soon. But then before we wrap up this interview, I want to ask a few questions that I'd ask also my other guests. So one of it is I'm pretty sure you watch the NBA that the athletes there are pretty vocal about social and political issues. Like it started in the bubble that they wouldn't just play. And LeBron, remember, he was before the Fox newscaster said you should just shut up and dribble, but then he did the
Yeah,
opposite, and he educates his followers and all the NBA audience on certain political issues like the George Floyd, the Jacob Blake issue, and even educating them on voting and all these other things that would benefit their country. And here in the Philippines, I'm pretty sure you know that compared to the States, we're more like timid and shy and laid back individuals. But then also in the elections, the one that recently concluded last May, the athletes and the sports personalities were more vocal using social media and other forms of try other ways of sharing their thoughts and opinions on the social and political issues of the country. So for you as an athlete, what's your opinion on athletes amplifying their voice and using social media any way in order to promote their thoughts and opinions?
I mean, I think it's a great outlet. Social media now is such a big thing, especially in this generation or this day and age. And
Mm-hmm.
as an athlete, doing that and sharing what they believe in, whether it be questionable or the right thing, as long as
Mm-hmm.
it's an outlet that you can express yourself, and people follow that. People look up to us athletes here in the Philippines, and maybe some in the States. The OFWs out there or anywhere. So I think being vocal about it is, I think it's great. You have everyone is entitled to their own opinion, of course, but if like you support someone else or you support this, then because I know back in the Philippines it's kind of frowned upon to be vocal about supporting certain someone and all of this. So of course social media is always going to be there. I think it's a great outlet to show your support and what you stand for. Especially this past season, we were those the UAAP was actually encouraging people to wear pink and all those stuff in support of
Yeah,
Lenny.
Ateneo.
And yeah,
Most of you guys, yeah.
yeah, so I think it's a great thing. We can use that outlets, reach out to other people that that maybe don't watch the games, or that just follow because they follow or stuff like that. So I think it's a great outlet for people or us athletes to use to to show support for the right person and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
right person. For sure. And yeah, I liked what the UAP did. That's why whenever I was watching also I'd wear pink, and you guys would wear pink shoes pa nga when you guys would play, and
Yeah,
sometimes going into the arena you guys would wear something pink, like I'll see you and your teammates. And that was
yeah,
really great to see. And like, was that Slam that they take pictures of you, Slam Philippines, they take
yeah,
pictures of you before,
yeah. It was slam. Yeah.
yeah, before entering. So that's great for us as fans to see that from that perspective. So yeah, the next question is, if you had the opportunity to have dinner with five people, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Oh, dang, that's a tough question. Dead or alive? Um, Five people you said?
Yeah, anyone, even if you don't know them.
Oh man. So I would definitely want to have dinner with my Kobe Bryant, MJ. Who else? Uh, Dang, it's tough. LeBron for sure, man. I used to hate LeBron, but
Me
I
until now, I'm not a LeBron fan because I'm for the Celtics. So, well,
yeah,
even now he's in the Lakers. That makes it even worse. But then even before, when he was in the Cavs and Heat, we'd always go against him in the playoffs. So I don't like LeBron. But I know you'd like him now. He's in LA.
yeah. I kind of didn't like him when he was with the Cavs, but when he was in Miami, it was like I I liked him a little bit, and then he came to
Mm-hmm.
LA, and I was like, am I forced to like him or
Yeah.
what? But he developed. He's great, man. He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Okay, that's three for sure. Um, I think I would, invite my my lolo before
Mm-hmm.
my dad, my grandfather of my dad. So
Mm-hmm.
I never had the chance to meet him. So I met him, but I was like very little, so I don't remember as much.
Toddler, yeah, kid.
Yeah, so I think I would want to invite him, and I think Coach Phil Jackson for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a great.
dang, they're all basketball guys, but I think
It's
it's one of
fine.
those. It's one of those things, to learn and just to sit down
Yeah.
and on a table with those guys and converse with those guys.
Yeah. How about this final question? It's actually kind of tough because I invited a lot of your teammates already, but you know that I invite you guys through social media, and I email you guys, and because I'm just starting, like I want to be in sports media in the future. I'm using podcasts to try to practice, and hopefully someone sees that someone gets me or something. That's why I want to start a podcast. And yeah, that's why I reach out to you guys and continue interviewing. And yeah, my question, but then it's kind of be kind of tough if you hear it. My question is, who would you suggest that I invite here on the DVD show that would have a great story to tell, or have just have fun guy to talk to? But yeah, I interviewed guys like SJ, Gian, who else? Dave, uh, Isaac, Mike. I had to read out of that today, guys, already. But yeah, maybe you could give a suggestion.
Hmm. Suggestion to who to interview next. Like it doesn't have to be a teammate or like a teammate of mine or just like anyone.
Doesn't need to be basketball, actually. Any sport, if you have a suggestion.
Sports. Huh. Hmm. That is a tough question, bro. That's a tough question, man.
Yeah, you could give anyone. I just compile it, and then sometimes I look back at it. I have it like in a Google sheet, and then I just check.
I think I think would be pretty good story is I don't know if you have Geo Chu.
Oh yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
interviewed him.
I think he would have like a good little story because I mean playing well in Gilas now, being the bad guy from Anj. So I think what he's doing now is pretty would be a pretty good thing. I haven't talked to him in a while, so I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how he is, but I think that would be a pretty good idea or pretty good interview.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I didn't get to interview him yet because I just gave you a glimpse of who the ones I interviewed, because you might like bring them up and you
Yeah,
interviewed
yeah.
them. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, thank you so much again, Rafi, for joining me here in my podcast. I learned a lot from you and your journey, especially like all the ones that the mainstream media don't get to tackle, and you were able to share a lot of the stories of you and the Ateneo community, and also your future plans for your career. So before you go, do you have any final message?
No, I just thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it. This is a
Yeah.
cool little thing you're doing, and I support it, man. All with it. So appreciate it. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you as well. But before you go, is it okay if we take a picture?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it from here. One, two, three. Okay, thank you so much, Rafi, for joining me here on my podcast. And yeah, stay safe and happy trip when you get back here. Safe trip.
Thanks, Ben. You too. Thanks.